Welcome to the Action Network's coverage of the 2023 Women's World Cup presented by Bet365. Today, we're going to be looking at the round of 16 as we now have the entire field set, giving out our best bets, our favorite matches to watch, even an upset alert. Be sure to check out our preview of the United States women's national team as they take on Sweden Sunday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern. We broke that game down in depth on YouTube. This one, we're going to focus on the other 7 matches. There are some really interesting newcomers, some surprise packages that made it in. Before we get started, remember that this show is presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION to get Bet365's exclusive sign-up offer in New Jersey, Colorado, Ohio, Virginia, and Iowa. Bet $1 and get $200 in bet credits. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. I'm here with BJ Cunningham, co-host of Wonder Goal with me, and we have a special guest, Anna Whitty, who's been with us all tournament. She's an NWSL broadcaster, U.S. Women's National Team expert. Anna, we're going to start with you. The most intriguing game, we're not going to count the United States. Of course, we're all most excited to watch the Americans take on the Swedes. What is the game that you're most excited for in the round of 16 and why?
The most exciting game for me is Colombia against Jamaica. Colombia coming out on top of their group, being able to get a result in the group in this World Cup. They've looked like a collective team. They look very physical and very strong. Jamaica, on the other hand, has seen similar results and have been able to be really competitive in this World Cup. I see two teams who are technical, but speedy, physical, and fast. I think this will be a really good competitive match and certainly one that I can't wait to see who gets the result in this one.
I don't think most people had Colombia or Jamaica advancing either, which makes for a very exciting time. Colombia, the only team in South America that made it out of the group, and Jamaica, advancing without conceding a goal. Only one of 3 teams to do that. So for them, one of them to make the quarterfinals is a pretty incredible achievement. Do you have a pick as maybe who you think might advance?
Colombia, I see advancing over Jamaica in the sense that they've looked together as a team a little bit better than I think Jamaica has. I think Colombia are a little bit more technical and be able to beat Jamaica physically as well. So I see it being a really tight game, maybe a 2-1, 3-2 win for Colombia. But the support that they have and the way that they have this confidence going into this match, I see Colombia coming out on top and advancing to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, Linda Caicedo with one of the goals of the tournament. She's been pretty fun to watch, unless you're me and you've had a couple bets against the Colombians. Otherwise, BJ, I'm going to go to you now. Your match that you're most excited to watch this weekend as we get into the round of 16.
I mean, for me, it's going to be Japan and Norway. I mean, I think, in my opinion, Japan's been the most impressive team of anybody in the group stage. I mean, they obviously had 2, route wins against Costa Rica and Zambia, which turned out to be, very less superior in terms of talent. But then they absolutely just blitzed Spain in transition, scored 4 goals off their 5 shots on target. And now the odds have pushed them up to being pretty significant favorites here against a Norwegian team that did disappoint in their first 2 matches in the group stage. They obviously didn't deserve to win against New Zealand, but it was a really poor performance for a team that's very, very talented. And they had a really bad draw against Switzerland where they were the better team. And then they finally got their confidence back and they scored 6 goals against the Philippines. So for a team like Norway, who has loads of talent and just as much talent as Japan. I mean, before the tournament even started, on the odds board, I mean, Japan and Norway were right next to each other. So now with Japan being a significant favorite and Norway starting to get their confidence back, I mean, they've taken the 5th most shots in this World Cup. So it's a very intriguing matchup for me. Japan, who's obviously really, really good in transition versus a Norwegian team that you could make the argument has the most aggressive approach of anybody. It makes it for a really fun back and forth type match. So I'm really excited to watch Japan and Norway.
Who's your pick?
I'm going to pick Norway to advance. I think that the Norwegians finally found their confidence. And then honestly, I think the odds are a little too high here on Japan.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the market has gone a little too high on Japan off of a game against Spain where Spain was, I don't want to say mailing it in, but Spain was certainly not in their top gear against Japan. Now, part of that is credit to Japan for, taking them out of that, but also both teams had already advanced. Maybe some jockeying and some resting for the round of 16 certainly in play. The match that I'm most excited to watch because I really don't know what to make of them is Australia. They're taking on Denmark. Denmark had 2 wins in very tight fashion against Haiti and against China. They had a tight loss to England, which I thought they played very well in that match and were very competitive with, the new tournament favorite, the English. So we still don't really know exactly what we're getting from Denmark. And I really don't know what to expect from Australia because they have not had their best player for the entire group stage. We talked before the tournament about Sam Kerr as a potential Golden Boot winner. And then it turns out the day before the tournament, she got injured in training, had a calf problem, did not play the first 2 matches. Then she was able to come off the bench against Canadians in the final match, but they were up 3-0. They didn't need her, so they didn't use her. So we still have not seen Kerr. She's back in the lineup now, we'd assume, for the next match with her getting healthier. What kind of form is she in? What kind of fitness does she have? Can she play a full 90 minutes? I really don't know. I think it really is important for Australia to have her if they want to go deep in this tournament because they have looked very shaky. Defensively against Nigeria, they had their problems. They really didn't do much in their match against Ireland. They won on a pretty dodgy penalty. So I think there's real question marks about what Australia is. And we're going to find out in this match against Denmark. I don't know what to make of it. I think the Aussies ultimately get through, but there's certainly a lot to be learned from that match. That's the one that I'm most excited for. Let's get into upsets because we've had a ton of them at this World Cup. It's been a truly underdog tournament. South Africa making it this far, Nigeria, Morocco this morning, knocking out Germany, Jamaica knocking out Brazil. Anna, who is your upset pick for the round of 16? Anybody who's an underdog on the board to pull off the upset?
Nigeria is my pick to upset England in this round of 16 because this tournament hasn't been too big for this team. They tied Canada 0-0, a big penalty kick stop against Christine Sinclair. And even though they've scored only 3 goals in group stage play, those 3 goals against Australia, I think they have what it takes defensively to break down this England side and then be able to get results. England started pretty slow in this tournament. In their last match against China, they did put up 6 goals and only conceded 1. However, I see Nigeria viewing this game against England as something they can get a result against because they've been able to get results against Australia and Canada. Their group stage play was really hard and something that they did a good job of advancing out of. And I see Nigeria continuing to use their physical aspect of this game, being really dominant when they do have the ball. It's not going to be a high scoring game for Nigeria, but I see them defensively being the biggest piece to be able to get the result against England.
I'm actually in agreement. I'll hop right in here. I also think Nigeria has a real long shot. They're one of the biggest underdogs on the board outside of Morocco to get through because they're playing the tournament favorite in England. But we've seen it with Germany and Brazil, these top teams that are just a little bit off, getting punished in a single elimination tournament. Anything can truly happen. And I agree. Nigeria came out of what I think, looking back in retrospect, was the toughest group with Canada, Nigeria, and Australia, and even Ireland, who was very competitive in all 3 matches. And so they're certainly battle tested. They certainly have held up defensively. They held Australia under 1.5 expected goals pretty much the entire match, which is really impressive. They held Canada under 1 non-penalty XG. Like they just weren't conceding a lot of chances in any of their matches. And with Oshoala as their striker, they're going to always be dangerous to steal a goal on the counter. So you can find them as high as 8-1 in the betting markets to advance. I think that's really high. And I will be betting some Nigeria and picking them as my favorite underdog to upset outside of Sweden, who all 3 of us are in alignment as an underdog that we're all picking. We talked about that in our other video, but for this sake, I'm going to go with Nigeria. BJ, who's your underdog?
I'm going to go with another African team, South Africa. They're plus 550 to advance against the Netherlands. I mean, for a team that has a good profile of being able to upset, obviously South Africa beat Italy to get to this spot. They play very, very passive. They're sitting in back in a 4-4-2. They have the second lowest passes per defensive action of anybody in this World Cup so far. But one of the metrics I really like to look at when I'm evaluating a team that's going to play passive and going to play in a low block is their final third to box entry conversion rate allowed. And right now, South Africa is sitting at 24%. That's an incredibly impressive number of keeping teams out of your penalty area. And they're set up perfectly to not have the ball. They haven't held over 40% possession in any of their matches in the group stage. They've been tested. They've played good teams. They were competitive against Sweden. They obviously beat Italy. And Netherlands, I mean, they weren't that impressive against Portugal. Like, yes, they had a lot of game control after they scored the opening goal. Against the United States, they scored early and just kind of tried to hold on for dear life for the rest of the match, then obviously routed Vietnam. But the South Africa team has proven now they were the Africa Cup of Nations winners last summer. they've proven that they can get through a tournament like this. So they're set up good. They're very, very direct and transitional, can give Netherlands some problems. So at a price of plus 550, I think it's a decent price for South Africa to get to the quarterfinals.
So there you have it. Nigeria and South Africa are 2 favorite underdog picks for the round of 16. Excited to learn more about Australia. Is Japan legit, or was it 3 games and maybe we're reading too much into it? A lot will be learned in the round of 16. Thank you to Anna and BJ for joining us as we continue to break down the Women's World Cup presented by Bet365. Thanks to everybody for watching. We will be back for the quarterfinal round and maybe a new favorite, depending on how this turns out. England is now your favorite to win the World Cup. Could it be coming home?